Brisket flat. Today on Heinz Barbecue, we're going to show you how to cook a brisket flat. Mainly because I haven't seen a whole lot of them done, and I just really want to give it a try. So let's go check it out. So brisket flats. Don't know much about these guys. I've cooked a lot of briskets, but I've never cooked a brisket flat. So that's what we got. We got a 7-pound brisket flat here with a pretty decent looking fat cap on it from Pineland Farms, which comes from Whole Foods. This thing's got really good marbling in it, but I've heard these things are really easy to dry out. So we're going to be cooking this on the offset smoker today and can't wait to see what we can end up with this thing. So here we go. Let's get into it. Going to go ahead and get this guy opened up. Kind of see what we've got going on here. All right. Oh, very nice. All right. So the fat cap seems to be in pretty good shape. We got some bald in here, but not a whole lot we can really do about that when they were cutting this guy out. Just probably took off a little bit more fat than they should have, but not a whole lot we can really do about that. It's a little thin over here on this edge, which is not too terribly bad. The underside of it, it's got some silver skin on it, so one thing we want to do is we just want to stick our knife under here and get this silver skin off. And you don't want to take off more meat than you have to, but it's a really good idea to get this stuff off of here. So, get him nice and cleaned up. And we're only really looking to get the really big chunks off. You don't have to get every little bit of this stuff off of here. It's not really going to make that big of a difference if you don't get every little bit. But you want to get the big pieces. So I had some really big chunks here in the center, so we just wanted to get those off of there. Nice thing is I don't see any big gash marks or butcher marks or anything like that from here, so I think we got pretty lucky on that, which I'm very grateful for because sometimes it's not always the case. So, another thing, getting a good knife, a good boning knife. I picked these things up, they're super cheap. They're like 15 bucks from like a restaurant supply store. So, makes this a lot easier. You can bend that knife and really get in there and do some other stuff with it. But for the most part, it just makes your life a lot easier. So, I'm pretty happy with that. I don't see any major issues. Got a little bit of some edges and stuff here that need to get trimmed up. So we're just going to trim these edges up just a little bit because the meat looks a little gray around those edges. And any kind of sharp corners we see, we're going to round those guys out a little bit. That looks pretty good. I am going to reshape this thin edge here a little bit just to get a little bit of a thicker edge in there. So we're just going to come down and we're going to cut this corner off right here. It helps if you sharpen your knife from time to time. Mine probably needs a little love, so we're just going to get that little thin edge off of there. We don't really want that guy on there. So, and then as far as this fat cap goes on the outside, it's really thick right here on this front edge. We want to get some of that off of there. So we're just going to come in and cut that off. And I'm probably going to take this front edge down here just a little bit, but we got way more than 1/4 inch on there, and that's just not going to render. So we're just going to take it all the way down. So there we go. Looking pretty decent. Got a little bit of a thick spot right there, and a little bit of one right there. So it's not too bad at all. Just want to get those guys shaved down. So there we go. Not too bad at all. We got about a 1/4 inch on the rest of this guy. We just wanted to trim down that one thick spot right there, so that way that fat would render when we got it on there. And it gives you a little bit of a protective layer, especially because this guy's so lean, but we got some pretty decent marbling on it, so we'll kind of see what this is. This came in as a choice cut, so this is not prime or Wagyu or anything like that. It's just a choice cut, so that's what we're going to go with. We're going to throw some seasoning on this guy, front and back, and then we're going to get him on the smoker. All right, so like I said before, we're going to get some seasoning on this guy. As you've seen in my other videos, I keep all of my spices and seasonings in mason jars for freshness. All I'm going to do is just dump this into a shaker bottle. So now I've got something that's got the correct hole size that I want to get this spread on here evenly. That's kind of a critical thing. If you leave a lot of blank spots, or if this goes on really uneven, you'll have uneven bites when you cut this guy up. So we're just going to come on real nice and steady with it. Just trying to cover everything on that first sweep. And if you kind of see any spots that you didn't get, just kind of come back around and hit them a little bit. So, as a wise man once said, don't forget the sides. So, come around, we'll get these sides real good. And I know I'm doing this in reverse because this is my presentation side. So typically when you cut this and show this to everyone, your fat cap's going to be the side facing up. This is backyard barbecue, so on this I really don't care. But get those patted in real nice. All right. And this is a beef rub that I'm kind of working on. I haven't quite critiqued it yet. It's got some unique stuff in it. Salt, pepper is the base. But there's some other seasonings in there that kind of make this really unique. And before I kind of say anything about it, I need to test it out on kind of a myriad of different beefs before I say, hey, we've got something we really like. So be looking forward to that as things are coming around. We'll, if this works out as good as we think it will, then definitely throw it up there for everybody to try out. So there we go. That looks pretty good. Got a really good coat of seasoning on there. Oh, I almost missed a side. All right, there we go. So that's set in pretty good. A little bit more around these edges here. So just pat that in. We're going to let this guy set for about an hour before we throw it on the smoker. In the meantime, I'm going to get the smoker fired up, get a couple other small end things done, and we'll jump back on it. All right, guys, so we've had this guy sweating for about an hour, hour and a half, and looking pretty good. So got a good sweat coming out on it. We got the pit finally up to temperature. It took me a little longer than I wanted to, but we got this guy up to about 230, 240 degrees. So it's about where we're going to start at. So we're going to grab this guy and throw him on there. We've got a little bit of a thicker end over here on this side, so I'm going to put that towards the firebox. All right, there we go. So we've got that guy all set in place and ready to go. So now all we do is wait. All right, guys, so this is something I really want to talk about. Behind me, this is the type of smoke that I like to see on something that I'm cooking, especially on beef. A lot of people are like, hey, keep your smoke really clean. We're about an hour into this cook, and I'm running some really green wood. What that green wood's going to give me is it's going to give me kind of what they call a dirtier smoke. And I've gone through the gamut on this of running every different type of smoke that you can possibly think of. A dirtier smoke at the beginning of the cook is going to give it that really smoky flavor that you're not going to get from, say, a Weber Smoky Mountain or a box or something else, just because of the type of smoke that this produces. And you can see it behind me and kind of how that whitish blue color, that's really what you're shooting for. But you just want to always make sure that you're keeping an open flame in that firebox. So we still got an open flame in there, but this is about as dirty as I can get this smoke while still keeping an open flame. So just something that I wanted to point out because it makes a big difference in the way your meat's going to turn out and how it's going to taste. You want this type of smoke. It's going to make for amazing smoke flavor that you can't get on anything else. All right, guys, so we're about halfway in here. Sun's set on us, so trying to keep up with stuff. Let's take a look and see what we got. I think we're roughly about halfway there, you know, based off of flat times that I've seen. This, you know, only being the first one I've ever cooked. So let's take a look. Ooh, okay. So starting to get some pretty good color on it. I'm gonna hit it. I've got a little bit of vinegar in a spray bottle right here. So we're just gonna hit this guy with a little bit of that. Wow, that's looking pretty good. So not terribly bad. So I'm gonna bring you over here a little closer. So there we go. The light's kind of bad out here, but see a little bit of what we got going on there. So the bark's starting to come in pretty good. Super pumped to see how this guy turns out. So we'll kind of keep on clicking along on this and we'll do an update here at the end. All right, guys. So it took much longer than we had initially anticipated to get this guy done. We're looking at probably about 11 hours right now, which I definitely didn't think it would have took this long, but we're finally to a pretty good place where we can wrap this guy up. We're at about 185 internal and everything's probe and tender, and that's what I'm looking for when I'm looking to get these guys off the smoker. Pretty much all I'm doing is I'm just using a thermal probe, and I'm not really so much looking for temperature. I'm looking for how it feels inside the meat. I want it to feel kind of like butter. If you're getting that feeling, then it's a good chance that you're done. You haven't overcooked it or undercooked it. So let's see what we got here. Get our butcher paper cut up. And get ready to do some wrapping. And I know the light's not really that good, but we're probing pretty good. So yeah, we're at about 180. So that's pretty good temperature to get this guy out of there and do some wrapping. So get our butcher paper laid out here. I'm at the end of the roll here, so it's trying to fight me pretty decently. Flip it over there, where it doesn't decide to do such a thing. And we will get that guy pulled out here and ready to be wrapped. All right. So there we go. Not too terrible. We got a little bit of puddling on it, but not anything horribly bad. So I'm gonna lay that guy down right there in the center. Probably lay him down like that. So, and then the next thing we're gonna do is I've got some Wagyu beef tallow. And we're just gonna put this on there just to get a little bit of added moisture in there. And hopefully give us a little bit better finish on this guy. We're not going to put a whole lot. You don't need a pile of this stuff. So we just want a little bit of it in there to give us that good beefy taste. Shift this guy back maybe a little bit more just so we can get the first wrap on it. Then all we're going to do is just grab him there, move him down roughly about where we had it the first go around. And there we go. And then you just want to grab it, wrap it up real tight. So we'll get our first wrap on it, pull it back like that and pinch it kinda. Take these right here, roll these guys over like so. Stretch out that little bit of paper there. And we'll fold him over one more time. And now you've got a sealed up little flat. So there we go. This guy's going to go in the oven at about 195 degrees till we hit that internal temperature we're looking for. Then we'll let it rest until it gets down to about 145. We'll hold it at 145 till tomorrow, and we'll cut into it. All right, so it's the next morning, and this did not go according to plan whatsoever. So ran into a few small issues as far as what was going on with this. I put a water pan in there, which I typically do not do, and it caused my cook time to run a lot longer than usual. Even though I put hot water in there, it didn't really matter, but it is what it is. So here we go. This is what we got. So got this guy up to about 200 degrees last night at about 1:30 a.m. Let it rest probably about 30 minutes, got the temp to start dropping. Then I threw it into the warmer, or pretty much my oven, until we got it down to 145 degrees. So now it is time to cut in to this brisket and see what we've got. All right, guys, here we go. Let's get it unwrapped and see what we are looking like. All right. Not too terrible. Good fat render. Wow, look at that. That looks pretty amazing. The bark is not terrible on it, but it's still got some things going on that I'm not the happiest in the world about. The bottom of it feels a little tough. So yeah, so that might end up being an issue. Which is kind of what happened on another one I had done. So, let's see here. Just gonna kind of go right down the middle. Super upset about it. It's a little pot roasty on the bottom. It's kind of pulling off, but there we go. Not too terribly bad. The bark looking pretty good. The fat render is really good on that. You can see it on that other side. So let's pull this guy apart. So pulls apart really good. Let's take a bite. Wow. Okay. So not too bad. I'm gonna try something down here off this little end. It seems to be a little better. So yeah, really good render there. Bark looks amazing. Let's try a little piece of this guy. A lot of flavor. Definitely gonna have to eat a little more of this. Kind of see what we got. So yeah, overall, not terrible. Especially for the type of cook. Definitely some things I would do a little different on this if I had a little more time. So, all right, guys, there it is. So, brisket flat cook in the books. Definitely would do a few things different on this, but we've got the majority of it there. It turned out pretty good, pulls apart good, good fat render, good bark on it. Took way longer than I thought, so something to keep in mind. So if you're cooking a brisket flat, hopefully this helps you out there. Drop some comments in there, let us know what you think about these videos, and I appreciate you guys watching. Keep those fires burning.